Hello, everybody. This is Lisa from the Three of Skeins Knit and Crochet podcast, episode number 81. And this is
Cryss. You make the intro so awkward.
I don't, I'm awkward. I just have accepted it. I'm awkward, and it's okay. How are you doing today, Cryss? It's a type of day. So let's bring us up to date.
The sky isn't brown anymore.
Yeah. Those of the rest of you guys in the wildfire smoke, it's been, apocalyptic? I think that's the right adjective. Today the sky is ever so slightly gray with some sunshine peeking through rather than the scary brown that it was yesterday. And I'm for one, and the air doesn't smell like smoke. The air actually smelled like smoke yesterday. I was like, oh wow. So I hope everybody else is coming through this fiery tribulation. So would you like to go first today, Cryss? Let's chat. What you got going on?
I'm pretty much finished my show. Pretty much.
Oh.
That's like 96% out of 100.
Okay, that's pretty much, yeah.
But this is the whatever show.
She is gorgeous. I wish you guys could feel this. This feels so smooth and luxurious.
When I say pretty much, what happened was I did run out of yarn. So I needed to do 2 rows of black edging, and I had this much left of 1 row to do, of the first row to do, and then I have to do the second row. So I don't have the black edging you see here. So I'm gonna try to find just like a mini skein.
Yeah, I think I have some black yarn.
Just to finish that off. So as you see, I'm not at all stressed about it. It's fine.
Yeah, I think I have some black fingering weight that you can use.
So, but other than that, it's finished.
Oh wow, that was some epic yarn chicken. That is gorgeous.
It's hard to figure out how to like conserve the yarn because the shawl is getting bigger row after row, and I'm new to the triangle shawl game, so I didn't know how to conserve. Like half of a skein will get you so much earlier in the shawl, but then will get you less rows later in the shawl. I didn't know how to make that work, so I was just winging it. And I think what I could have done differently is, see, this section here is not symmetric. I have more black at the top than at the bottom. I could have just taken out enough to make this section here symmetric, and then I would have enough black left over for that bottom edge. But I'm not.
Yeah, that's too much rip back just to get a little bit yarn. Yeah.
Especially because these rows, I'm changing color every row and I'm cutting the yarn. I would have a bunch of little strips of yarn hanging out to be worked back. And you would think you have the same amount of yarn, you make the same amount of stitches every time.
Nope.
Sometimes you don't.
Nope.
Sometimes you sure don't. So I'm only gonna take them chances. But yeah, I'm really happy with it.
She is gorgeous.
I like it so much better than the pattern I was working on from the book. But yeah, that's the whatever shawl.
Yeah, and if you don't have a black mini skein, look in my fingering weight sock yarns, and I think I have some black in there.
But I was thinking about, like, what if I had been designing this like to write a pattern? I had to rip out because no one's gonna buy a whole 4th skein of yarn just to do that final edge. So I'd had to make these 3 skeins work.
Oh no, you just have to make it an extra skein.
To do 2 rows?
Well, you wouldn't necessarily. It worked out the 2 rows for you, but if someone's a looser crocheter, it could work out to way more rows.
Yeah. See, these are reasons why I don't write patterns. I don't need that kind of stress.
I always round things up to the next whole skein anyway, because you can't purchase half a skein.
Right. That's why I'm saying this. I would have had to rework the pattern if I wanted to limit it to 3 skeins. I would have had to rework it, and I'm just like, so glad I'm not writing patterns.
Not about that life.
But I don't know. I might I said might now, don't get excited. Just do a short video showing how I did the increases in linen stitch.
Yeah.
Because it's actually crazy simple. And then you can just use whatever colors of yarn you want and make a triangle shawl using linen stitch.
I do like that your increases are kind of invisible.
Yeah.
They don't really show up in the pattern at all, and it looks very, very neat.
So, and, you know, when there's a one row repeat, I always say you don't need a pattern. You just need to know how to do that one row. So, yeah, I might just do a quick video saying this is how I increase the linen stitch, and then you can make your own triangle shawl doing exactly the same thing.
Okay. You know what? Baby steps. As you guys may or may not know, oh, you know what? Let me go back up a couple of paces. We have had a little spate of people subscribing to us lately.
Oh, yay.
And I just want to say thank you for subscribing and welcome to the party. Can't wait to hear what you're doing. So I am working on my shape lace tee, aka I can never remember the other name, the Katrina, Katrinkles, whatever tee. I'll put it in the description bar. I can never remember it. I've decided it was Katya, and it's absolutely not Katya.
Oh.
So I don't know.
Okay. So
I finished the back, right? Got the whole back done. I am very, very excited about that. I did make some changes from the original pattern because I'm not working at the same gauge they are. Oh, for a book that was published in 2007, it's pretty size inclusive. I must say, it goes, most of the patterns go up at least to 56, 58 inch bust. But like I said, I'm not using the same yarn, so I still had to work some stuff out. So it turns out that my gauge was 4.505 stitches per inch. And I know that sounds oddly specific, but when I'm doing gauge calculations, I do take it out to like the third digit just to make it as accurate as I possibly can. And Crystal knows I'm a fudger in most things, but in this, no, I go to the third digit. So when I decided to go ahead and do this, it turns out, what I normally do is I work my gauge swatch, see what my gauge is, and work the pattern numbers in the size closest to what my gauge turned out to be. But apparently my yarn was just radically different. So there was no size that kind of matched my gauge. So I just had to like play with the numbers a little bit based on the number of inches I wanted to get in the thing. And so far it's worked out pretty well. I did a pin fitting this morning where I asked Mom to just pin the sweater to the back of me, well, the piece of the sweater to the back of me, and that went pretty well because the piece looked kind of funny to me because the top of the back seemed very long, and I was like, oh dear, did I miscalculate?
Well, did you measure it?
Yeah, I did measure it, but like I said,
did it seem long or was it actually long?
No, it's not long at all.
Okay.
When I tried it on, it's not long at all. And then I went, and then you know what happened too? I was wearing a t-shirt when I tried it on. So I'm gonna hold it up on my phone, but I'm gonna actually put a big picture in so you can really see later on. I was wearing a t-shirt, and the t-shirt was just cut much higher in the armhole. So I was like, God. So what I did was I went and measured some of the shirts that were not t-shirts. And this is actually a shorter arm side than a typical button-down shirt. So I was like, okay, that should be fine. And then I tried it on, at least the back, and I just wanna put that out there to people making garments. Even if you don't have a complete garment, as soon as you have something that you can try on, go ahead and try it on, even if you just pin the back to your back. That way you can have a more realistic picture. I don't have a dress model, so I have to be my own, I have to be my own dress model sometimes. But even now I have it in context on my body. So now I'm thinking about, okay, I did waist shaping in the back, and I'm very happy with how that came out. You can actually see the waist shaping in the shirt. And I'm considering changing the waist shaping in the front. But we'll see how that goes. I may not even be bothered with that, to be perfectly honest, because the back fit fine. So I'm assuming the front's gonna fit fine too. But that's where I'm at. My next step after getting the front done, I'm gonna cast the front on probably later this evening, is making new sleeves. Since, once again, my gauge is very different than their gauge, I'm a little concerned about the sleeves as they're written. So I might end up measuring my arm side and making a sleeve to fit the arm side that I actually made, rather than just saying, okay, well, rather than increasing, because my first thought, I spent the other morning doing math, and Cryss will tell you I don't like that. I don't like doing the math. And I discovered that what I need is about, I don't know, 11% bigger. And I was just gonna increase everything by 11%. I know, right? That's a little risky. That was my idea. I was like, just make everything a little 11% bigger. That should do the trick. And just keep the same shape. But I decided to just do some measuring of the actual thing and build a sleeve to fit the actual thing.
Don't do that first one.
You don't think that's a good idea?
No.
So yesterday, I turned to my book, Knitwear Design Workshop by Shirley Payton, and just looked up how to build a set-in sleeve, which this is one of. And now that I know the different parts of the sleeve I need to make, I can just build a sleeve from the measurement of the arm side that I need that sleeve to fit. And I think that's just gonna be a better solution to this problem than making a theoretical sleeve. Anyway, let us know what you would do in this circumstance. Now that I've made the sweater fits, how do I make the sleeve? Crystal's a no vote on the theoretical.
Yeah, yeah. So my next project is probably going to be my linen dress. Almost certainly going to be the linen dress. It's just I have other things, you know, we're working on, and I don't know how I'm gonna make it smart, but I have this shirt that I made a few years ago, and it's one of those things I've talked about that I'm going to remake in nicer yarn. So this is my little t-shirt. I forgot what I named it, but it is, I use post stitches to do like a faux ribbing, and it was a gradient cake, so those stripes are just happening on their own. And it's just a boxy t-shirt, and I absolutely love this thing. I wear it quite a bit, and I want to remake it. And so I was swatching, and you know, I have other swatches that I did not bring, but I was swatching. So it's done in fingering weight yarn, but I was swatching it in DK. Why? Because that's what I had. In terms of like my summer yarns, I had, you know, linens and cotton and things that were DK weight. I have my linen, but I have other plans for the linen, so I wasn't going to use the linen for this top. And I ended up using the same yarn. I borrowed a skein yarn from Lisa, and it's the one she's using to make her lacy top right now. And I swatched a little bit. And no matter what I do, I just thought at the DK weight, oh, that's nice. It's just bulkier than I wanted. It's, you know, compared to the original. So I realized I do like this yarn. It's cotton viscose linen, but I didn't want to use the DK weight. So I bought some here.
Where'd this come from?
Mother Knitter.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
So some of Lisa's yarn, but in the fingering weight. So this is called Lena, and they have a chunkier one that's called Tick Lena, and then they have this one which is called Tin Lena. So I decided I'm going to do the shirt, you know, monochromatic, so it's just going to be in this pink. And then I'm going to do all my neck edging, the sleeve edging, and the waistband in this kind of green color. Because I was going for, like, it's kind of emulating a flower, so the main body is the petals, and then the edges will be the, So that was the thinking. And I wanted to show you guys this bag. I know, I really wish we could, you know, do less plastic, but this bag is actually really cute because the patterning on the front looks like a stockinette, and then the patterning on the back looks like, what's it called? When you do all
garter stitch.
Yes, it looks like garter stitch. I thought that was actually very clever. So this is a really nice, you know, quality plastic bag, but I was just toss in my purse and make it reusable.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was so cute, and I'm like, I want a crochet version.
I never even saw that yarn come in. Wow.
It just came today.
Oh, okay. I was like,
yeah.
I didn't even suspect that was
I
coming.
just popped it out the mailbox today. And so Lisa got her yarn in person at Mother Knitter, and I ordered mine online. The shipping's a bit much, I think. It was, I think, $10.25 to ship it an hour. Wow. But I would have had to drive more than 2 hours round trip, and
it's worth the $10.25.
Yeah, there was just no way. There was just no way. But yeah, so at some point, I'm gonna do the t-shirt. I might make a slight change though. I haven't decided yet. And so when you do ribbing, any stitch that's not in the rib, I'm gonna call the background stitch. So what you do is usually your background stitch, if it's double crochet, your ribbing will be treble crochet. You'll do treble post stitches. And that's what I did with this top. So every other row is double crochet, and then so I do double crochet, alternating double and single, but then all my post stitches are treble crochet. What I might do is change it so that my background stitch is single crochet. So every row will be single crochet, and then my post stitches will be just double crochets. The difference that makes is that at the bottom, you can see my background stitches is double crochets, and there's more opening between them.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to the top, that's a very closed fabric because that's all single crochet stitches. So I just have to decide if I like that opening, which is going to make the top look just a little bit looser and drapier, or if I'll have to swatch it and see if the yarn is light enough that I'll still get the drape that I want, even though I'm using all single crochet stitches. So I have to, I'll have to swatch that to figure out which way to go, but that's the only change I might make. She's cute though.
She is cute. I'm not mad at her.
And then I just did that hem in linen stitch. Yeah, which, so cute. So that's where my head is at right now.
What is encroaching that might push this out of the way?
My dress, I told you.
Oh, right. No, I'm thinking of the sparkly dress.
Yeah, because I still got to get back to that. Yeah, y'all don't know what's going on up here. It's a mess. It really is. But yeah, I don't think that's like the only project I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I suspected there was more.
No. I was just looking at some magazines, Vogue and
Bazaar.
Harper's Bazaar. Mm-hmm. That set me off on a whole like, oh, I could do this and I could do this and I could do this. And I'm not one for like, I'm not really interested in like the fashion world because they're not speaking to me. You know, these brands are like crazy expensive, but you know, you see an idea and you're just like, oh wait, I can adapt that. I can make a version of that. And now I have like I might be working on a mood board. That's long story short. But we will see.
That's not just me.
Yeah, that's what's going on.
So I have been chatting with some people on Reddit about making things to fit you.
Oh.
Yeah. And you know what's so funny though? I think part of the issue is that, you know, everybody's communicating in writing. So sometimes, you know, there's miscommunication and there's a tone that can't be heard or seen. So I think at first people thought that I was saying that I didn't want size inclusive patterns. And, you know, people focus on people on the bigger end of things in size inclusive patterns, but, you know, the small folk have their issues too. But what I was trying to get across was that although it's great to have size inclusive patterns, I think knitters need to look at the sewing world, because even if you buy a pattern as a person who sews, the expectation is that you're going to fit that pattern to yourself. That pattern is just a base model. You know, it's like when you buy a car. That pattern is just a base model. Making it fit yourself is the whole impetus of sewing. And I think that people who make garments, no matter what form you use, I think that really needs to be where your head's at. You know, okay, I've got the base idea. What do I need to do to make it fit my proportions? Because even if 3 of us were sitting here, we all had the same measurements, our bodies are different proportions. So the same pattern won't fit us all the same way. So that's a conversation.
I feel like there's a lot of knitters who think knitting is just making the stitches, and as long as you know how to do that, everything else is supposed to come from someone else. It's supposed to come from the designer or what have you. But it's not. Knitting, it's a bunch of skills put together, and you have to learn all of those things to make, not only to make a garment, but to make one that actually fits the intended person. A lot of people say, well, it didn't fit, so I gave mine away. But if you want it to fit, you know, you, like the person you thought it was going to be for when you started making it, the skills that go into fitting, you also have to learn. That is part of knitting.
Yeah, and crochet. Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
So people get very upset with designers when they're making something that doesn't fit them. And I'm just
right. A person who answered, right, she said that she sent a pattern to a friend of hers because she was like, oh, take a look at this pattern. I made one and I really like it. So the lady picked up her yarn and hooks and made it, and it came out really tiny. But the pattern was written for worsted weight, and she made it in fingering, following the directions. But her response was, you're trying to fat shame me. And I was like, no, that's not what happened.
But she doesn't understand the difference between fingering weight yarn and worsted weight yarn.
No.
So that if you do the same number of stitches, you will get a different size fabric.
A much tinier thing, yes.
See, these are some basic things that I guess you assume everyone knows, and clearly not everyone does.
No.
But those are the things you have to learn, because that is all part of the skill.
Yeah.
It's not just making the basic stitches. And I don't know how you popularize that. I don't know how you get that across to people, that there's a little more work involved.
Yeah.
Than just knowing the stitches.
That was a comment that came up too, that, you know, I don't want to do the boring stuff. I just want to knit.
What is the boring stuff?
Everything that's not knitting. And I was like, oh.
Like, I hate seaming, but I know it's part of the job. Like,
she really hates seaming.
God, so much. But, you know, I know it's what I have to do to take the pieces that don't stay on me and turn them into a unit that will stay on me. And you can't, it's not a la carte.
No, it's not.
Knitting, crocheting, sewing, it's not a la carte. You don't just get to pick and choose, oh, I'll do this and this, but not that and that. I don't know how, like I said, how you popularize that so that it's understood, so that people who buy patterns get that before they buy the pattern.
Right. And then there's this expectation, and I think it's also because a lot of designers are just individual people, and people feel more comfortable reaching out to an individual than to a company. So I don't think I've ever called a big company to ask them how to use the product I bought. The expectation is that if I bought the product, I must know what I'm doing.
And especially since the age of YouTube, the first thing I do is I go on YouTube and I'm like, well, someone has bought this before I have.
Exactly.
They'll explain how to use it. One time when my niece was little, I bought her this pop-up tent. It looked like a little princess castle, but I didn't know how to fold it back down. I bought it here and then sent it home with her parents, and I didn't know how to fold it back down. I went on YouTube, and there was a very helpful person who made a video like, oh, twist it like this and squish it and whatever, because otherwise it had just been up forever.
Yeah.
But it never crossed my mind. I would call company and call manufacturer.
Hey, like, yo.
Like, what do I do with this thing?
I can't make it go down.
But for some reason, with knitting in particular, I feel like knitters expect a little bit more.
A lot more.
Yes.
Because
attention.
The conversation was kind of wide ranging in that sphere, and there's a really dividing line of there are knitters who expect that the pattern is going to tell them everything they could possibly need to know, including every possible alteration for every body type, and which is a different thing than having a base size available for the run of humanity. I'm just saying, it's easier to make adjustments when you start off in the right ballpark than if you have to take a garment that just no way will ever fit you and then make it your size. And that was another issue that came up. A lot of designers don't even really know how to do it. They just expand everything everywhere. And it was so funny because it really came up for me because someone else was complaining about a Tilly and the Buttons pattern. It's a sewing woman that makes sewing patterns, and she made a plus size and a straight size. Had both the things. The plus size thing did not look like the straight size thing because it wasn't done. The making it bigger wasn't done properly.
Yeah, it was just embiggened.
It was just embiggened.
Yeah.
So now it had flared legs because they just embiggened the whole leg.
Oh.
It didn't fit properly. It was a mess. So when you buy the pattern from a straight size designer who's not used to doing plus sizes or petites, you might still get something that you have to extensively work on to get the right fit. And a problem I've had a long time is because I am tall, but not really tall.
You're a little tall, not big tall.
Exactly, I'm a little tall, not big tall. So I'm taller than the average American woman, which the average height I believe is 5'4" or 5'3". It might be 5'3". I'm 5'6.5". So no pants are the right length, right? The talls are too long. The averages aren't quite long enough. And heaven help me, petites.
Fit is just not part of the conversation in knitting and crochet the way it is in sewing.
No.
And I don't know how
to make those two worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem you tend to see in crochet is just that fit is just not a consideration. I can't tell you how many times I wanted it oversized.
No, you didn't.
Like, who are you fooling? But people just make the biggest version in crochet for some reason, and that's part of the look. That seems to be part of the aesthetic because there's just no consideration of fit. Again, I don't know how to square the circle.
You know what? I think for me, at least in my teaching, what I'm trying to teach people is how to speak to their swatch and understand what it's saying, because swatching is just an exercise for people that has no point. It seems to have no point though, because if you can't use the swatch for anything, because how many times have you heard someone say, I made a swatch, now what do I do? You know, I made the swatch.
When I first started crocheting garments, I used to make those swatches. They would tell you, okay, your swatch should be this many stitches and this many rows, and I'd make it, and then
just chuck it to the side.
I was still guessing which size to make in the pattern.
Right.
For me, there was no connection between that swatch I made and which size I ended up making in the pattern.
And now your swatch is everything.
It's my whole world. This top, I swatched it in 3 different yarns, and none of them are the one I'm using. So I still have to swatch the new yarn that I bought.
Yes. Yes. So I think all of that plays into it, because people think they can guess the size. I have measured myself. I have my measurements printed out and stored in my notebook. If you don't have at least an idea of what size you actually are, you'll say things like, I usually take a large, or I usually wear a medium. And then,
which doesn't mean the same thing everywhere anyway.
No. So we have all of that working against us as garment makers. So I try to associate, measuring the swatch and measuring your body to the actual thing. I saw one who
said she always got gauged, but her sweaters were always too small, and she said she realized her bust was 3 inches bigger than How do you miss 3 inches from your own bust?
You don't measure it.
But she said her bust was 3 inches bigger than she realized. And I was just like, I'm still confused by that. But I don't know. People are really like out of sync. And I have to say, I had my mom measure me, length of my arm, all of that, right? Full set of measurements. But I had 2 books, one from Dora Ornstein and one from Shannon Millett Bowlesby, that had a list of all the measurements you should take from your body. Without that, I would probably still just be limited to like maybe bust, waist, hip, if that.
Right.
So again, fit was a part of the concept. Those are the 2 designers I reference all the time who are having a more in-depth conversation about crochet. But if you don't encounter that, if you don't find someone who's talking about that, who knows when you're going to finally consider, oh, well, my sleeves always come out the wrong size. Measure the length of your arm. Like, you need to have like a jumping off point for deciding how long to make your sleeve.
Right.
So I had the list of all the specific measurements I was supposed to take, and that's what I'm using. But if fit isn't part of the conversation, no one's even saying, well, start by taking your bust measurement before you make a sweater. But you might also want to know, your shoulder width. You want to know your arm length. There's more to it than just your bust size.
Yes, because all the parts of the sweater or whatever it is you're making are going to need to fit you. So if you have broader shoulders and the schematic is telling you, oh, no matter what size, all the shoulders are 16 inches wide. And you might see that on a schematic. The pattern might be in, 10 sizes, but all the shoulders are the same width. You might want to consider measuring your shoulders to see if, that pattern will fit your shoulders. People have been complaining that there's a designer who all the sleeves on her sweaters are too thin. You don't have to make that sleeve the amount she says, the number of stitches she says, but if you don't know what your arm measures, you don't know how much to make it. And that's the other thing that people commented too. How do I know how much to make, my sleeve or my armhole? And you can only get that with a tape measure and your measurements.
Where does fit fit in for you? Like, did you learn about it? If you came from sewing, I would imagine you knew quite a bit about fit and how to make garments fit you. But if you didn't, when did you start to learn? What was it for you? What was that light bulb moment for you when you figured out, oh, I need to start making adjustments to written patterns in order to get the fit that I want? Because I don't know how to start that conversation with people, because fit's a thing. Like, very much so.
Yeah. I mean, with crocheters, we see a lot of sweaters, well, tops. They're not sweaters. Tops that are like tied on. I'm like, no, it don't gotta be like that.
Yeah, I want more people to, because people are like really invested in their makes, and it can be really disappointing when something doesn't fit them.
Yeah.
And or they're making things that don't make them happy. And I feel like if you knew how to make something fit you well and look good on your body, you'd get more enjoyment out of your knitting or your crochet. So yeah, I don't know how to make that work though.
But you know what? I would love to know, when you have hit on, when you made a thing, you're like, oh my gosh, everything fits. Do you measure that thing and apply those measurements to the next thing? Because it could be that simple. You know, when I was dubious about the armhole depth on my tee, I measured some other armhole depths just to make sure that that's in the range that I can work with. And just thinking to do things like that will tell you before you finish the whole sweater. And that's the other thing. There's nothing more disappointing that you finish the whole thing and now you know it doesn't fit. That's why I'm comparing what I'm making to other garments. I'm trying it on as I go. And all those things are telling me, okay, you're going in the right direction, and you won't be really sad when it's over. Really sad. And a little mad. Oh, I got some red ribbon when we were out at Joann's. I know nobody with me is gonna do it, but we had an incident in here just recently where Mom mistakenly put a beautiful sweater she made into the washing machine. And it felted so hard. Oh my God, it's perfectly felted. I mean, perfectly felted without even trying.
It's true.
It's this big.
It looks like it's for a baby now. I couldn't believe it when I saw it.
I know, when she showed it to me, I was like, oh, I couldn't even speak for a couple of minutes.
And it didn't go in the dryer. That was just in the washing machine.
It was just the washing. I can't imagine what size it would have come out if we put it in the dryer. So to salvage the beautiful fabric, because the fabric is actually still quite lovely, she's gonna make it into a bag. She said she's always wanted a felted bag, so she's gonna reclaim the fabric that way. But I decided that going forward, I'm gonna sew a little piece of red ribbon into anything that I make that's not washable. Just so I'll see that little flash of red before it goes into the washing machine. That will help me rescue it from that fate. Because you know, sometimes you just pick things up and you're tossing them in and you don't even think that, oh no. Because it is approximately, I would say, 1 foot square now. It's really small. So maybe you want to do something like that with some of your makes that you wear and wash. And I think that's it for us today. With a cautionary tale. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week. And if you enjoyed our episode, please remember to like and subscribe.